Okay, I'm gonna get my bread started for the day. It's about 8:30 in the morning. I'm about to start work and I have a couple meetings this morning. So since I'm doing stretch and folds, they need to sit for a little bit. And so this is a perfect opportunity for me to get the dough started, and then it'll sit there. And then when I get a chance in maybe an hour or so, I'll just get up and stretch the dough. So here's how I'm gonna do it. So first of all, here's my proportions. So this is how much starter and water and flour and stuff I'm going to do. I mix flours, so I have Vital Wheat gluten flour, which is expensive, but I like it because it's used to make vegan protein. So as you can see, the protein on that, there's 23 grams of protein for a quarter of a cup, which is crazy. So it's a really good way for me to supplement some of the flour. It works just fine in bread. I wouldn't do just a loaf of this, partially because it's so expensive, but also because it's not the whole grain. It's just the Vital Wheat gluten piece of it, which is all the protein. So I'll put this in and substitute a portion of this 500 grams. I'll put some of that in instead. And then I have my two flours. So I have bread flour here, and then I've got my wheat flour here, and this is a whole wheat flour. If you just do bread flour, you will get a delicious, fluffy bread that it's going to rise really nicely. It's going to have good spring. If you just do wheat flour, it's going to be really, really dense. This is less, has less nutrients and, fiber and protein stuff. It does have more protein than regular flour, but it's still not quite as healthy as I like for my regular bread. So I'm going to mix some of this so that it gets some of that spring and lightness and the long gluten strands that are really lovely that come from this. I'm going to mix in some of this so that I get extra fiber and, extra protein and stuff. And also both of these make the starter happy. So these are really good for rising. But then I'm going to use this. I'm going to probably replace, I don't know, maybe a quarter to a third of the flour with this so that it has more protein in it. So I'm just going to move my phone up here so you can kind of see everything. Here's my starter. Oh, I should show you really quickly. So it did rise. You can see the level that it rose to. It rose to about there. And I saw it yesterday when it was rising. I knew that it was at its peak, and I just left it because it's fine. So you can see that it's a little bit, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's some kind of gray tints to some parts of it. Like some parts are a little bit more golden and yeasty, and some parts are a little more gray. That gray is the hooch that we were talking about that gives it the sour flavor. So it hasn't really formed. You can tell there's not a lot of it. This is how I like my starter. So this is what's considered discard because it's fallen. It's not bubbling and active and kind of growing at the moment. This is fine for the bread. So I'm going to do 500. Let's see. Hopefully that's facing the right way. 50 to 100 grams. So I'm going to do I'm actually just going to pour this whole thing because whatever. So here we go. Oops. Let me switch that to grams. It was on ounces, but switching my scale over to grams. I don't think you can see the scale. So we're gonna be just about 100 grams here with this whole thing. It's a little over. That's fine. Yeah, I know some people are very, again, if you're a home baker and you're trying to get really consistent loaves, you want to be careful about your ratios, but like a professional baker. If you are a professional baker and you're selling it to other people and you want consistent results, you need to be careful about your ratios. But I'm just doing this, like Ben will have some, but really this is, he even buys bread from the store still. So I just, this is really for me. So whatever. So I have 131 grams of starter, called for 50 to 100. Having a little having a little more starter is just going to make it rise a little faster, which is fine, whatever. So not a big deal. So then we have 375 grams of warm water. And so I have about 2 cups here, and I have microwaved this for 45 seconds. So it's just barely warm to the touch. Like this is like a cup of tea that's been sitting, or a cup of hot chocolate's been sitting for quite a while. But it's warm. Like when I touch it, it's a little bit warmer than my hand, which isn't saying much because my hands are usually cold. So 375. So I'm going to clear the weight scale so it zeroes out, so it says 0 again. And then I'm going to pour 375. And I kind of, sometimes I'll do this a little bit to sort of break up the starter a little. It's easier when the starter is wet, which this is a wetter starter that I usually work with. It's a little easier to sort of mix it. Again, doesn't really matter. Okay, so it called for 375 grams of warm water, and I accidentally poured 380. So again, whatever, that's fine. So I'm just gonna mix this with my little spatula, kind of get the starter all mixed in and happy. And then I'm gonna clear it out again. Nope, press the wrong button. Okay, there we go. So now it's back at 0, and I'm gonna do the 500 grams of flour. So I'm gonna start with my Vital Wheat gluten, which is the high protein one. And I'm just gonna scoop it. I'll probably do like 150 of the 500 grams. I think I'm gonna swap out maybe like 150 to 200 grams of Vital Wheat gluten. So here we go. It does make it a more expensive loaf, but it also makes it more filling and, good for you. Okay, I'm gonna do 150 because it's kind of a lot. It's a really expensive product. There might be cheaper ways to buy it than what I do, but I haven't found it anywhere else, so I just buy the expensive stuff from the store next door. Okay, so that is 153 grams of Vital Wheat gluten, and I'm gonna write that down, but that's just so that when I'm putting it in my calorie tracker, I know what portion of like Vital Wheat gluten I used versus other things, because obviously I'm a little loosey-goosey with how I do things. So okay, so that was 153, and then I'm going to do my wheat flour next, and I'm going to use the wheat flour to get it up to 300 grams total. I cleared it. I shouldn't have cleared it, but that's fine. I'll just math it. So 300 minus 153, so we're going to put in about another 150 grams of regular wheat flour. So here we go. Almost there. Okay, whoops. Well, whatever. Okay, so that was 161 grams of wheat flour. Echo, how much is 500 minus 153 minus 161? Well, there was traffic, so Echo, how much is 500 grams minus 153 minus 161?
The result is 186 grams.
186. Okay, good. I'm glad I asked a second time, because that sounded like it said 106, and I thought, no, that's too low. Okay, 186. So the rest of it, I'm going to use my bread flour to fill in the rest of it. And again, you can kind of mix and match. So if you want to add Vital Wheat gluten, you can definitely do that. Hold on one second. 186 grams of flour. Yeah, you can definitely do that. Hold on a second. I need to do something. Echo, what is 186 plus 161?
The sum is 347.
347. 47. Okay. So I wrote all that down. 347 because I forgot to zero it out. I zeroed it out between the first two, but then I didn't zero it out the second time on the flour. So I just needed to figure out how much the total was of the wheat flour plus the regular flour so that I can get the right total amount. So 347. So I'm at 315. Let's see here. 340, 345, 354. Okay, that's fine. I went over a little bit, and I'm even adding just like, that really was an unnecessary amount of flour, extra flour, like it wasn't going to make a big difference, but because I actually added a little extra water, I'm maybe just going to do one like small spoonful extra flour just to kind of help absorb that water. I want a little, the sourdough starter was a little more, the water was a little bit more, so we're now at 366 total. So that's good to know for my weight thing. Okay, so I'm going to clear that out. There are two ways you can do the salt. Some people like to mix this and leave it at this stage before you add the salt so that all of those gluten strands can really get long and really form really nicely. And so again, a lot of professional bakers will do that. It doesn't have to be done that way. You can add the salt, and this starter is really strong. This is a really healthy starter, so I haven't had any problems with just adding the salt. So I just zeroed it out, and we're gonna do 9 to 12 grams of salt. So I do 12, sometimes I've even done up to 15 grams of salt because I like a salty bread. I like it better. I think it tastes better. Okay, so we did 13 grams of salt. Again, whatever. And also there's extra flour and extra water and stuff, so that actually kind of probably balances out. All right, so just turn that off, set that to the side for now. And then I'm just gonna take my spatula. People have different tools. Some people use their hands, which I will in just a minute. I did wash my hands right before this, and I did like a hospital wash where I really scrubbed and really get under my nails and stuff, because sometimes you kind of have to scrape it down, and I really want to make sure that my hands are really nice and clean to work this. But I start with a spatula so that all that kind of like really sticky stuff happens at the spatula stage instead of with my hands. This is maybe a little bit, it looks a little bit dry. And I'm not saying like more dry than other dough. I'm just saying like in general, you can see that this again kind of it's a little shaggy. It hasn't really come together yet. That's okay. This is a trust the process moment. I'm going to just kind of get some of that off of there. And then this is where I'm going to use my hands. And Ben's mom's best friend is a professional pastry chef. And we met a friend of hers who's a professional bread maker. And she was like, your hands are the best tools you can use for this. So you can see I'm kind of scraping things down here. So when I touch it, this area is really wet. There's like wet pockets in here. And then there's all these like dry bits. So I'm just gonna kind of get in there and just give it hand hugs. We're just gonna massage it and make it feel real nice. You know, it's had a tough day, needs a little break, so just massage that bread a little bit. Okay, it's kind of sticky, that's good. Sourdough is typically a high hydration dough, which means it's different than working with a regular dough where you knead it and you really push it and like push on it and really kind of beat it to get it into the long gluten strands. And to get all of the structure of the dough built, and a high hydration dough is different. They're softer, they are wet, you know, high hydration obviously. So I'm just gonna get it mixed in, and it's not gonna be a beautiful soft loaf. Normally with regular dough you would knead it for about 10 minutes, and you can do that with this. Like I'd maybe let it sit for a half hour so the gluten can start to form, and then you could toss it in a bread mixer or like a mixing bowl or something that has like a bread mixer attachment, or you could just knead it for 10 minutes or so. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the stretch and folds method. So now this needs to sit here for about a half hour. You can do a half hour, an hour, whatever. The stretch and fold method typically will be a half hour between stretches, and that's perfect. But if you're busy, if you have meetings or whatever, half hour, hour, you know, it's really 4 to 5 hours total that you're doing these stretch and folds. Now, whether you do the stretch and folds every half hour on the mark or every like half hour to 45 minutes to an hour, you want 4. So trying to be more regular about it is better. Sticking to that sort of half hour mark and doing that 4 times. I'm sorry, I said 4 hours. I meant 2. It is 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours of stretch and folds. 4 hours will give you too much rise. So 2 to 3 hours of stretch and folds is just going to stay at room temperature. I have this bowl that has a lid, and I'm just going to set it on top to keep it moist. And that's it. That's the first stage. So we're done.